is Team Morphoservice, Team Saucy. I am Annie Shi, and I'm joined by my teammates Yojin Yin and Zoe Tsu. So as a quick review for most of you of what our project is about, we're working with the Morphosource team, which is a Duke University-run publicly accessible 3D data repository, which holds natural history, cultural heritage, and scientific objects from museums across the country and somewhat across the globe. So example objects that are in this data repository are primate skulls, historical art pieces, and everything in between. So the core objective of Morphosource, like why does it exist, is to share results, to increase impact, and improve access to these materials that are normally stored in museums, but are now available online once people digitize them, so as to push forward scientific discovery and public access to things that usually only scholars would be able to go in and find. And so the people that use Morphosource are the contributors, the museums and researchers that do this hard digitizing work of taking a fossil and making it a 3D file. And then users are researchers like people at Duke and other universities, as well as public school educators and people in very different industries. So now I'm going to pass along to Yojin to talk about our objectives and why our Data Plus team is here.
Yeah, so the key of our objective, like the problem statement, is to continue digitalize fossils and other museum objects like the collections, managers, researchers, and others that contribute to Morphosource need to prove their sufficient usage and impact to grant agencies and administration. So our goal is to provide the website usage data and to provide the key evidence for academic and social impacts. So we aim to summarize and visualize the raw usage data. And for our methods, we mainly use Jupyter Notebook and the Python computer language for usage statistic analysis, which include download times, user intentions, user demographics, and also Google Analytics for website interaction analysis, which also includes page views, total time spent on page. And finally, we use Tableau, which is for data visualization. And Zoe is going to talk more about our results and conclusion.
Thank you, Annie and Luren, and bear with me for this design. Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Zoe, and I'll present what we've done for this project. So first, we'll begin with project impact. The project is a collaborative platform which allows contributors from different organizations to upload media under the same theme. So for this project, it's Power Cascade, and users can upload teas, cloths, and so on. For the About section, which already Morphosource already have on their page, provides the general information about this project. It is accessible for both general audience and contributors who uploaded media to this project. Here we add project views, which is the number of unique users who visited media in this project. Media downloads, the total number of downloads for any media in this project. Ranking project views, which measures how popular this project is out of all the projects on Morphosource in terms of project views. Ranking downloads similarly, but in terms of media downloads. Moving on to impact section, which is like our big work here. For the contributors, we add an impact section to assist them better understand the impact of their contributions. There are 3 filters. First is organization, basically tells the physical ownership of these media. Scanning facility tells the institution that scans these media into 3D file. Specimen object, which could have like one single media entry or a collection of media entries, similar to like multiple slices of one object or specimen. Contributors can select one filter. Here, if the filter by organization will provide a summary table for downloads grouped by organizations involved in this project with at least one downloading record. accompanied by a bar chart in descending order, rank these organizations with the most downloads to the least. Similarly, if they filter by specimen or object, a summary table grouped by specimen object with links for quick access to the specific object page. Additionally, the top downloaded objects will have previews to the right, allowing users to gain some quick insights. Contributors can select multiple filters as well. If they select organization and scanning facility, or present a multi-indexed summary table with the filter selected. Accordingly, the bar chart would become a stacked bar chart, where the first level organizations being the bars and second level scanning facilities being the color-coded portion within the bar. If they filter by organization, specimen or object, similar idea, but we would present the distribution of downloads within one organization specified in drop-down list as a pie chart. The pie chart demonstrates the proportion of downloads for the top 3 most downloaded media and collapse everything else into other objects. You can click the other portion for more information, like to check what's other objects being collapsed in this category. Moving on to the dashboard, we'll incorporate the impact dashboard dedicating to visualize the impact of their contributions. Click into the user impact dashboard, there will be a greeting and some general stats for the quick information, like how many media you uploaded, how many projects you've participated, how many unique users have downloaded your media, and how many total downloads you have for your contribution overall. We visualize the number of downloads over time with the options to aggregate by year, month, or day. This plot helps contributors understand the growth of the impact of their contributions. We also provide a cumulative version to give a different perspective. Here we can see that the downloads increase dramatically after the website update. You can select the point on the line to get more detail about what you're interested in. Last but not least, we'll have a discussion on user intentions and user demographic. Our stakeholders mentioned that they're really interested to see how their media are used and who are using them. To respond to this need, we created a stacked bar chart for the user downloaded intentions, where the different color blocks refer to the different levels under the same group. For example, as shown here, the education levels can range from K6 to postgrad, and if we move our cursor and select a block, you can show the detail under it. And this category is museum and public outreach, and the number of download is shown here. For the user demographics, we visualize the downloads with the same idea. I didn't collapse it into color blocks because, as you can see here, within the student group, the postgrad is like dominate the whole student group, and then we'll just present it in a better way for the visualization. However, we met a big challenge for user intentions and demographics. Aside from the categorical response shown here, there is a free text input section for both, and the user input has gone wild. Just imagine all the possible typos you can have. This is an interesting topic we could propose for the future research. But as if for now, for this project, we will limit the project scope to what we've presented here. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you very much. And let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks a lot. That was a great presentation. Let's open it up to a discussion. And yeah, so just about anything anybody wants to talk about? And I guess while people are formulating their questions or points of discussion, it seems like you guys have put a tremendous amount of thought into distilling the analytics of what's happening behind the scenes. And I imagine there was a lot of collaboration that went into this in terms of working with your clients to figure this out. I was wondering, can you talk about a bit about that process and about those design processes and determining the next thing to go visualize or the next thing to go study?
Yeah, I think, Greg, I think you definitely touched on like a key one of, I think, growth for, at least for me, was learning how to see data science as like a designing thing as well, right? Like it's as much about deciding what to show as it is figuring out how to make the visualization. In my mind, the process that we went through is we kind of like slap things together. For example, we found like most recent download dates for a given media file. We slapped that onto like a slides that we presented to our stakeholders, which are like the museum curators and the researchers that I mentioned at the very beginning. These are people that we met with twice over the course of the summer, just in a Zoom room. And then just like showed it to them and asked for their response. So in that specific case, we went from doing that most recent downloads and then found out it wasn't super useful to them to this these two line graphs that you see on the right side that Zoe showed us, which is downloads over time and seeing the trend for a given media file or a given project. So it's kind of like threw something at it, heard their response, and then tried something new based on that.
Yeah.
Virginia, do you want to add to that?
I think you touched the gist. Basically, it's like I feel like I gained a lot about like how to interact with like stakeholders and how to take feedbacks from like the users, and then just incorporate their like feedback and need into the like the product design as we presented here.
Yeah, following Zoe, I really have the same feeling about the stakeholder meetings. So we really pay attention to like their comments and feedback. So sometimes like what we do and the functions are not what they desire. So like that's a key point that we're gonna focus on. So I think that's also something that I'm going to carry on and take on to my future research or other jobs with data science.
Was it so you had mentioned, trying to figure out what they wanted. Was there anything that you guys found that you thought was super cool and they were a little bit resistant to at first, and then they said, okay, well, now we see what you're getting at? Or was it more just a pretty straightforward iterative process? I guess no, that's not. Let me scale back that thing. It's never a straightforward iterative process, but were you guys mostly seeing things through the same eyes, I guess?
Well, I think like there is a like straightforward component to this question, because before we come into this project, I think the project managers and like Doug, Julie, and Jocelyn, they kind of have something they want us to do already, which is like to perform analysis on the usage statistics. And what we focused is the number of downloads and user intentions and user demographics. What we wanted to do, but it's like super cool, but due to like either time limitation or technical stuff, we haven't touched a lot is the Google Analytics part, which I feel like, yeah, it's like another good topic to explore. But basically, we are trying to see as museum collections move from physical object to virtualized files. And then for Morphosource, one good thing is they enabled like a 3D view on their website. And then for those who either don't want to download, or because like usually if they download, they will print out the 3D model, 3D object, but it's not everyone have that like device to print it out things. So what they will do is like they probably just go online and view things on the 3D scanner. And then we're trying to measure that behavior as well. But it's being a bit complicated than what we saw, but we're still aiming for that route.
Yeah. Robert, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just picking up on what you said before, and it's this this discussion with the clients where my impression is that they actually don't know all of the things that you could do, and you don't really know all the things that might be of interest. And the only way to bridge that gap is to show them things and to get them to react. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think you have a point there, and that's what we've done, like through this summer. So we had like our first stakeholder meetings, which basically it's more like the users talk about what they want and have their discussion just gone to all the directions possible. They throw out like, oh, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. And then after that first stakeholder meetings, as a group, we sit together and say, okay, for some needs, we can like address that and respond it like with the work we have done. But for some of them, it's just too like out of the too out of the scope. And then for the second stakeholder meeting, we present what we have like in a similar form, but like a slides to show them what it will look like on the website and ask them for their feedback to see if that's what actually want. And the recent download feature, which Annie brought it up, it's like something we add and we thought they're gonna need it, but they end up saying, no, it's not super useful. And then we delete it.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'd also say that clients don't always know what they want. I mean, there is sometimes they think that there are these apps that would be super useful and that everyone should want them. And it turns out that when you give people access to them, they don't. And then there are other things that they might have thought of as throwaways that turn out to be incredibly popular. And it's like you don't get to find out unless you give the users an opportunity to choose.
Yeah, I think that's really accurate. Like, could take that quote. Yeah, I think it was really helpful too to have Jocelyn Triplett and Dr. Julie Winchester are both here, and we're like project manager, project lead, and kind of are like intermediate stakeholders, and that are like, you know, main developers of Morphosource, the website itself. Kind of guide us through this like negotiation, this bridging of a gap, and deciding where to lean towards what the stakeholders looking for, what things to try, and overall just where to put our energy to try to reach that, you know, middle ground and meeting people's needs.
I guess one thing I wonder, just from like seeing this data and then wondering why you see this data is, so you have these kind of spikes that appear. Is it like and you mentioned there was some event that happened at this thing, but I wonder if certain items get featured on a website at times, whether you see certain types of spikes, and whether there is any interest in sort of figuring out, well, what items should we feature in order to draw people in, things along these lines. Like, how do we, I imagine there's some really natural follow-up questions to the work that you've done, which is, how do we increase user engagement now that we understand, now that we can look at this stuff? How do we actually use that ability to look to enhance user experience or increasing user engagement and things along these lines?
I almost feel like that might be a question for Jocelyn or Julie, because I don't think we actually dug quite enough into looking at the things that we looking at the graphs that we made and like thinking about, yeah, what insights do they provide?
I can. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, please.
No, I was just gonna say, I think, Greg, you've like definitely brought an interesting topic here. And I think our Julie and Jocelyn, they're like really interested in this discussion as well, because when we before like prior for us to make these downloads over time, Julie brought up the idea that basically after the Morphosource update, the user experience is like gone significantly better, and we got approved by multiple stakeholders as well, and that could be part of the reason why we have the spikes. But I think Julie have like a detailed explanation for these. So yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna. I'll hop in very quickly because it's your time, not really ours. But I think Zoe is actually completely right. I think that highest spike that people can see on the overall graph, that I think that corresponds to when we released the refactor of the entire site after February 2021, which I think inspired a burst of interest. But what I also think is interesting is that spike in the middle, which, I mean, our usage tends to be cyclical with semesters. So you tend to see the usage sort of peak throughout the middle to the end of a semester. But I do also think that some of the peaks you're seeing here would also actually be probably pandemic related and people's need to sort of access data digitally and remotely. But
cool.
Yeah, I think about the cyclical behavior and peaked at the end of the semester, it kind of makes sense because sorry, just gonna move around a little bit. For the user intentions and user demographics, we can see that the material, the resource from the Morphosource website are mainly used by like researchers, students, and for like school assignments, education, or like other academic related purposes. So yeah, that kind of like linked to the cyclic spikes as well.
Yeah.
I'll share one more anecdote of, because the team was sort of mentioning, that there's still sort of data buried in Google Analytics that could be recovered. In terms of, Greg, what you brought up about sort of localized spikes in terms of people putting data up. I do know from some of the first Google Analytics data that we've pulled out, sort of an interesting localized spike we had some of the 3D models of what are called the Tiktaalik specimens, which Tiktaalik is a fish fossil, but it was a fish that had legs. It's like probably the earliest fish with legs that was sort of climbing out of the sea, and it was found up around the Arctic Circle. But someone released some of those, and we actually had a Facebook impact burst that was visible on Google Analytics of suddenly like a huge burst in referral traffic from Facebook.
Cool. Yeah, and I think there's I know that all of this analysis is more like what has happened on the website, but it does make me sort of it does pique my curiosity about the different types of user experiences that would influence these type of observations. Are there any other actually, and I guess we're coming to the close, and I think so if there's any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. But while you're thinking, I just kind of I was wondering if the students, if each one of the students would share just kind of something from the summer, challenges, joys, frustrations, any kind of just reflection on your experience that you would want to share just as you conclude your poster session.
Yeah, I think one thing I would say, so I still feel like I'm like pretty new to programming and data science. I've probably like taken half of a programming course before doing Data Plus. But one of the things that I like discussed with Dr. Hirschlag, like halfway through the program or something, was collaborative coding and how that works, because it's not something that I really had done before. but getting to like screen share with Zoe and watch her code and like be like, oh, maybe we can use this one function that I'm vaguely familiar with, you know. And then seeing how she navigates like Stack Overflow and all these resources was really interesting and helpful to just give me a picture of what coding in the future would look like, because I would like to be in a collaborative setting, and it seems like most programming it is.
Cool. No, I'm excited to hear that shift was successful and nice. I guess so. Just to interrupt the question, Hannah Jacobs was wondering and wanted to hear about how the work might be carried forward. Are there plans to talk directly with users about how they're working with the models?
I would say, well, like, so this presentation is more about like the prototype of how the dashboard would look like for the website implementation. But like, I think since we're not the developers, so I don't know if I should say it for like Morphosource. Yeah, like, yeah.
I mean, I'll say the work that the student team did was fantastic, and honestly, we plan to take the prototypes they've created and the initial code that they've created and to scale it up to actually being used on the website. So our next steps for us is actually to sort of use the work that they've done to hopefully add new sections to the website to enhance users' understanding of the impact that their media are having.
That's awesome. And maybe just to return to the final question, just as we conclude, Zoe and Liren, do you mind sharing some of your experience?
I can go last, or Liren, do you want me to
You
go?
Don't feel like you can abstain.
Yeah, I feel like I talk too much, but yeah.
So go ahead.
So like aside from the programming part, which Annie I've already covered, the challenge for me is like challenge, but like also learning opportunity for me is like learning new things. So I think also like by talking with Jocelyn and Julie and getting the perspective from like developers, we kind of like learn it's not just making a graph and then add legend, just like probably what I've done in the homework. It's more about like putting it on the website and actually like make it useful. And I think I remember like Julie mentioned like how like some fundamental principles about design the website and modularize the code and modularize things also like speeds up the production. And I think that's something really interesting, and I keep that in mind when I design stuff, and also like keep all the style consistent for the website. And we were not consistent beforehand. It's not showing here because it's a little bit ugly, but Julie have seen it. It's like all the color possible we can find, and then the scale was not quite there. And after that, we consult with Eric from like Duke Library. He's like a visualization expert and really helped us a lot on making the visualization pretty with Tableau. And yeah, I think that's like my challenges what I learned from this project.
Yeah, so just add on Zoe's part. So I feel like my challenges is mainly focused on like actively learning something that I never tried. For example, like the various package of Python and also Google Analytics, which I never touch on. So I also found something I learned and I want to like carry on, which is the communication, like both in the level of talking to stakeholders about their desired function and also like between us, which is like three of us. So sometimes we code together so we can kind of support each other and find out how to solve and provide some like thoughts and feedback, like write after we finish part of the code. And I feel like sometimes like our part of the code or like our desired goals for like different levels, say organization or media or project level. So those have lots of like overlaps and interactions. So I feel like communication is the key, and also part of the like something I learned, which I feel like yeah, that's something like we should all work on when solving the problem. And also that makes it like we can also create more things and like inspirations based on our projects, and that's also something we're going to carry on.
Great. Thanks to you all. Thanks to everyone for the questions, and thanks for a really great presentation, and congratulations on the work. So let's give a virtual round of applause to the team.